Depreciation is usually a dirty word, unless you're someone like me, who loves the idea of owning old 90s luxury barges like this.
In the early 90s, Ferdinand Piëch would leave one final lasting legacy on the Audi brand before leaving as CEO to become the CEO of Volkswagen Group. That legacy would be the Audi A8 D2. And while the Audi A8 wouldn't seem as crazy as some of his later projects such as the Bugatti Veyron, it still had a profound effect on the whole Volkswagen Group brand. And it meant that Ferdinand Piëch could finally recommend one of his own cars to his peers of German business people. That's because up until this point, BMW and in particular Mercedes dominated the space of German luxury saloons. And Ferdinand Piëch, he didn't just want a piece of the pie, he wanted the best Apfeltorte that you could get. But before you race to the comments and tell me Audi already had a luxury saloon at this point, the Audi V8, that even raced in DTM, just remember that it kind of fell short of where it needed to be, and it kind of just felt like a slightly more plush Audi 200. The Audi V8 therefore felt like a bit of an afterthought, and considering that the Audi 200 was already out for a couple of years before the V8 was launched, it also felt a little bit outdated. For the successor, however, Ferdinand Piëch was not going to take that risk. He wanted to step firmly into the future, and he wanted his car to be the high-tech alternative to the likes of the S-Class and the 7 Series, and he felt that the Audi A8 was the car to do it. On the surface, Audi would use a new design language that would carry them into the 21st century. But underneath that was something really spectacular. Because rather than using the outdated material of steel for your body panels and your chassis, they decided to use aluminium instead, something they called the Audi Space Frame. This would allow the A8 to be lighter than its competitors and also be more sporty and agile, characteristics that would typically be ignored in the luxury segment. But all this high tech meant that it wasn't cheap.
That's because this Audi A8 would have cost £65,000 when new back in 1995. That's the equivalent of £165,000 in today's money, or €196,000. And for £65,000 back in 1995, you would have been able to buy 2 pretty decent family homes. But thanks to the world of depreciation, this 28-year-old who makes videos for the internet was able to buy this car for 1% of what it would have cost new. I kind of wish buying a house had the same depreciation. For that 1% of what this car would have cost new, I'm still getting a 300 horsepower 4.2 litre V8 that's comfortable sitting at over 250 kilometers per hour on the Autobahn. I'm also getting a car that has quattro all-wheel drive, a design that must have been incredibly futuristic back in 1995, and of course, an aluminium body, something that wasn't really done up to this point. But the features and the tech were one thing. If you were going to spend the equivalent of almost €200,000 in today's money on a car, you want it to be comfy and you want it to be well built. And that the Audi A8 was. This example has almost every single option ticked, and I love it for that. First of all, it's ruby red, a colour almost identical to my dream spec of Porsche 993. Secondly, it's specced with these forged aluminium wheels, which were polished from factory, and I intend to put it back to that. When it comes to Audi's design and the interior dash design, back in the 90s, they were killing it. This still looks timeless and somewhat modern, even by today's standard. And I think this is arguably one of the most timeless interiors you can get. When I'm sat here, I can't help but feel excited for whoever would have bought this car back 30 years ago, because this is such a futuristic interior. When you consider that when this car was first produced, the BMW E39 was a couple of years into the future, and aside from the analog clocks, as well as the cassette player, you'd be forgiven for thinking this could be a modern Audi interior. Some might say that's because Audi interiors are generally boring. For me, I think it's actually just because Audi interiors are a little bit more reserved. And this car got spec too. You have a blind that electronically goes up and down in the back. You've heated seats in the front, you can drop down the headrest in the back, a Tiptronic 4-speed automatic gearbox, memory seats for the driver that are obviously also electrically adjustable in the front, including lumbar support and also putting up and down where your seatbelt is. 4 electric windows, electric mirrors that you can even fold in, as well as electric and heated seats in the rear as well, with more legroom than an emergency row on a Ryanair flight. Although I don't think whoever bought this car new would have known what Ryanair is. They probably flew Concorde. Just in case anyone would forget, it's a 4.2. You have a lovely badge here. And one of my favorite things to find when we first bought this car, it has a removable tow hitch from factory, which I think was a £2,500 option back in the day. Now, you don't buy a car for 1% of the almost 200 grand it would have cost in today's money without having a couple of issues. But it's the issues that this car has is what allowed me to get this car for this price. And I don't think it's going to stop us. Firstly, this car has been off the road since 2009. If anyone remembers that era, it was around the time of the economic crisis, and taxing something like this would have cost like €1,500 a year to tax. In more modern years, a car like this costs €1,809 a year to tax. So it's quite inhibitive. But there's one good thing. It's in 1995, meaning that this year, this car goes €56 tax, which is a lot more manageable. Because the car has been off the road for so long, it will need recommissioning. So first job, timing belt and fixing a couple of oil leaks, such as the rocker cover gaskets as well. We'll also need to change brakes, tires, all of that fun stuff, and see what bushings it needs and needs to be replaced. More than likely, we'll probably do everything at some point, but I think we're gonna start off by just trying to get it running first. But there's a reason I've also parked it up like this. Because on the other side, there's a little bit of damage that might deter most people. Firstly, we have a bit of lacquer peel here on the back right quarter. Not the end of the world. However, it's what's up here that looks probably a lot worse than it is. Basically what happened was this car has been in a garage ever since 2009, which is nice because it's been dry stored. However, there was a battery that caught on fire beside the car, and it caused so much heat that it started melting the plastic trim pieces and also some of the paint. And that's what you see here. So we need these trim pieces new, obviously new wing mirror, indicator, trim piece there, trim piece down there, and a new mirror because yeah, that's a little bit toasty. However, all of the window rubbers are fine. All of these trim pieces, fine. Inner wheel arch is fine. So aside from repainting and putting different trim pieces on this side, I think we'll be okay. I think as we drive this car more and more, it'll fix some of those tapping noises, and there's obviously a bit of an exhaust leak coming from down there that needs to be sorted as well. But aside from that, I'm stupidly happy about this car. And fingers crossed, that means we can get this car back on the road pretty soon and back to its former glory, because I really do look forward to enjoying a car that literally I would never have been able to afford if I was around back in the 90s. So let me know what you think of this car. Let me know what you think I should do with it. Keep it standard, modify it, let me know. And also please don't follow Retro Garage if you don't like old school and classic cars like this. And also make sure to like, share and subscribe, and hopefully there'll be progress on this car soon. We'll talk to you as always in the next video. Cheers, take care, bye-bye. And what I got for that is a car whose bonnet doesn't open.